everybody. My name is Renato Sogecco, and welcome to Spill the Petals podcast, where during every episode, we talk about an industry happening, a trend, or we actually have a very special guest that we're going to grill to get more insight from their experience in the floral industry. And we have our special guest today. Her name is Jennifer Barnard, AAF of Tillie's Flower Shop. And if she looks familiar, and if you're a regular viewer, you probably saw her a couple weeks ago when she was giving some great advice about how her shop preps for Mother's Day. So she did such a great job. We said, hey, you know what? Let's have her on and grill her some more. So this week we're going to dive a little bit into some topics that she could definitely answer. And I'm going to turn it over to my co-host Jackie Lacey to kind of outline what we're going to talk about during this episode.
Thanks so much, Renato, and thanks everyone for listening or tuning in. We're really fortunate to have Jennifer with us today. And then one of the reasons was when we talked to her the other episode about Mother's Day, some of the responses that she gave were spot on with what we're seeing trending in the industry. And we just know that Jennifer has done so much to up her social game, as well as to change things around in a family business, which is what we're talking about this week. In the industry, we're seeing a lot of times when it comes to a family-owned flower shop, some people are not quite as, let me say, exuberant about jumping into their parents' or grandparents' shoes because they've grown up in the industry. And Jennifer stepped right in, was more than willing to take those reins and start moving forward. So we want to hear what the difference is and some of the things that she's done to make this business sort of her own and to fertilize the family tree, so to speak. So
nice title, Jackie.
So let's just get right to it and reach out. And Jen, if you will just give us your name and title, tell us a little bit about how long you've been in the industry, that sort of thing.
Hi, thanks for having me. I am Jen Barnard. I am with Tillie's Flower Shop in Wichita, Kansas. So we have been in business for we're celebrating 147 years this year. So my sister and I are fourth generation. I'm one of the owners of a family business, and I personally have been full-time involved for 26 years, basically since I graduated college.
Well, you can barely be more than 26 years old. So how you've basically then been engraced in the business since you were born, right?
Yes.
So, let me ask you, Jen, you're fourth generation. You took over the family business. Overall, how would you describe that experience?
I didn't really have much of a choice, I don't think. Technically, I did have a choice, but I grew up in it. I really loved seeing that my parents were there for me as a kid growing up, and family was important to me, and I wanted to do the same thing. I wanted to be a great mom to my kids, and so that's kind of why I decided to stay in the business. Technically, I haven't fully taken it over yet. My dad is actually semi-retired. We still kind of help each other out. And my sister is involved as well. So we all kind of work really well together. We kind of all bounce ideas with each other. And he's not someone that gets stuck in the past and isn't willing to change. He's actually always pushing us to change. So I really value that. I know some other family businesses, their parents are really stuck in their ways and don't want to change. So we're very fortunate where we work really well together.
I could confirm all that because I know your dad. And I remember conversations with him years back where he would, we would talk about, some crazy idea that he heard at an SEF convention that I probably shared. And then he goes, you need to speak to my daughter. Let's get on that right away. So that's amazing that he's like that. And I'm sure that's really eased the this transition that's ongoing. But the question I wanted to ask you, and let's just, be frank about it. You still have your own unique ideas. And although I know he's like that, do you feel that the ideas and the big changes that you want to make are happening or in an environment that they will happen?
Absolutely. Like I said, we work really well together where my sister focuses on
Mhm.
one area, I focus on another area. So I saw a hole that I could help fill. And so, 26 years ago, the website was starting to come on. And so I really felt like that need. And of course, my dad at his age, he didn't know anything about it. And so, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed learning about it. And so I really took that on as my baby and really grew and implemented the website and digital marketing.
So, quick question for you: how much, what percentage of revenue, if you're okay sharing this with the audience, represents your total revenue of your business that comes from your website these
From our
days?
website, gosh, it keeps growing. It used to be like
Hmm.
20%, 25%. The numbers that come through our website is really about 30%, I believe. But as you know, a lot of people, we're in the Midwest and they still want to talk to a person. So I would say 9 out of 10 phone calls, people are talking to my sales staff and they are on our
Hmm.
website. So it's a huge portion.
That's amazing. Yep.
Yeah, those are some great numbers, and hopefully those will continue. That's what the predictions are.
Hmm.
It's only going to continue to grow, the percentage that you get from online sales versus what you get in store. But one of the things that I noticed that you said when you were talking about the family dynamics and how well everyone works together, that you sort of everyone focuses on their strength and what they want to be responsible for. But in making changes, a lot of times with an established business, that can frighten the clientele or cause some unrest. Did you see any of that as you began to make new changes in the business?
Oh, of course. The biggest change during this time. So when I came into the business, we had 5 locations. And so that's a lot of, but that was a time period where location was very important. Where you were, that's what you sold to that area. And so as the website and digital marketing has grown, you don't really need all those locations. And it's a lot harder to manage the people, the staffing.
Right.
It's a lot of headaches. And so we've shrunk that down now to one location. And our last location we shut down during COVID, which there was a lot of resistance actually with my dad and my sister because it's actually our biggest zip code of our clientele. Um, but we were kind of forced to do it because of staffing, and we didn't lose the business. It actually, we have continued to grow. Now we are reopening that store in the fall as a new store, as a new experience. It's going to be a design school and kind of build your own bouquet. So it's going to be something different. And I believe that if I was going to open another location, it needed to be something different. It can't just be a flower shop because you don't need all those locations anymore. But boy, howdy, we live in a city that there's this river and there's the east and the west side, and they don't want to cross over the river, even though you can get everywhere in Wichita in 20 minutes. So that location was on the west side, and they will come to our main location. But boy, howdy, do we hear about it. When are you going to open up the west store? When are you going to open up the west store? And I'm like, the foot traffic we had at that store wasn't that great, but now after all the complaining, they better come in.
Yeah, so John, I'm going to challenge that process with this question. So you're telling me that you went from 5 locations now to this one location, and you'll soon expand to the second location, which is not a florist. But when you consolidated to this one location, all the changes like the website, the digital marketing, you guys did not take a hit in overall revenue
Now
after dropping five
we
stores?
we we did with one location. One location was on a very major intersection of Wichita, and we lost
Mhm.
that location because the highway had to expand out. And that was a major blow to us because that was the signage that most of Wichita saw. And so when that store had to close, they thought we weren't around anymore. It was during that time period where locations were still important. So that was, I don't know, roughly like 2002, I think, is when they took that location. So that was a major blow to us, that location. But the other ones were like in other cities or downtown. It really wasn't really that much of a blow to us.
Well, you've talked a little bit about some of the changes that were planned, some of the changes that were kind of forced. We just went through a period of change that was brand new to all of us, that we didn't see coming. And even within those years of changes, there were supply changes and transportation changes and delivery changes that came about. What would be the number one change that you've seen in the industry that you think has made the biggest difference in the industry? Not just your business, but the biggest difference in the industry?
Digital, definitely. It's not okay just to be able to make something pretty anymore. People want to receive that photo that they see on the website. And so that has been the biggest trend, I would say, is that it's very important to keep your digital platforms updated with what your consumer is going to receive. If you can't make it look like that photo, that stock photo that you get from BloomNet or FTD or Telefloral, you better do it and rephotograph it and put it on the website so that your customer is going to receive what they're purchasing.
So you tell us about that process. Like, so, the designers, they pump out these arrangements. Do you guys have a photo studio there, and where you instantly capture something? And what's that process? So in case some of our viewers may not be doing this.
So I went out to Floriology and learned from Jackie and Renato how to.
I swear that was not sponsored.
My little studio. So it started out like early on. I think you could buy like these well, first off, like 20 years ago, you were using a still camera. And so we would take the photo with a background, and then it was a lot harder process, definitely. Now I have Jackie and Renato taught me how to, it's literally just this little room in the back with storage all around. I have some lighting that you guys had recommended. And it's changed over time. I keep always trying to change it and update it. But for the gist of it, it's like I went from needing an actual camera to a digital camera. Now I do everything with my iPhone. I know it's not top grade, but I've learned that consumer, they want what they see on the website. And the quickest thing to do is snap that photo with your iPhone. There's so many tools out there that can help clean it up with iPhoto. And I use Canva a lot, and you get it on your website, and I can instantly change a photo same day now.
Oh, go ahead.
So one of the things that you mentioned, Jen, was that if you can't provide the finished design, that you're getting those steals from the service providers, do you reshoot that recipe maybe with flowers a little bit more immature, so that it will look exactly like what you're sending out the door looks exactly like what they're going to get, even if it doesn't have the mature flowers that a service provider would have put in there?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Like I said, a lot of those stock photos are photographed in full bloom, as what you said. A lot of them are one-sided. We do all around. So probably the biggest difficulty is sometimes people will see our bouquet and they'll see another flower shop that has the same bouquet, but ours is priced higher. It's because we add to that recipe sometimes to the back of the bouquet, so it's all around. So we price it and we make sure the photograph is all for, they get the value for that price.
And are you sending, I know a lot of shops have started sending a photo to the sender so that they know what they're sending. And then do you keep that in stock just in case someone says, hey, this isn't exactly like what I ordered, that just provides you sort of a backup as what actually did go out the door?
We do not. We will take a photo if they request it, and I know a lot of flower shops do this, and I think it's a great idea. It's just like one more hiccup. We send out a lot of bouquets in one day, so we have 100 to 150 that go out every day. So that's a lot of photos to take. So we will do it.
It's a storage alone.
Yeah, but as you know, flowers don't photograph well. And so I know the techniques of what you need to do to fill up those empty spaces and to play around with the lighting. But if I'm having my designers or salespeople just snap a photo, it's really hard to make. When we're talking with customers, they'll say, oh, it doesn't look as full. And I kind of have to explain to them that that greenery is showing empty spaces when really it's just greenery in those spaces.
Well, before we went down this particular tangent, I just wanted to recap some of the things that Jen shared in that wonderful knowledge segment that she talked about her studio setup. But she mentioned Canva. So for those of you that don't know, Canva is this great online program that even most beginners could just jump on and start editing photos real quick. She mentioned her lighting setup. If you're interested in getting the same list that we provided her, just email me or leave a comment, and we'll certainly send you that list. And although Jen uses an iPhone, literally any smartphone that you purchased in the last couple of years, the quality of these devices is amazing. So just use anything pretty recent, and I think you'll be fine with that. But I wanted to kind of shift gears. So we know you take fabulous photographs, and you were able to deliver in a digital way what the customer has seen on their website. However, I know that you do a wonderful job with your social media. And the reason why is because I get maybe a notification once or twice a week that Tillie's is live. So I click on that, and it's funny because we're pals. It's pretty obvious, but I feel like I'm really close to Jen because I watch her every week on this broadcast that she has, just chatting about what's going on at her shop. So could you walk us through how that came about, whether it's effective? That live broadcast is great, but and visit facebook.com and just search Tillie's. But take us through that, Jen. That's amazing.
Well, thank you. It really goes to you. Like I said, I went out to Floriology. We had a meeting out there, and Renato and Jackie were like, do video. And, nobody wants to videotape themselves. It makes you kind of feel vain. And but COVID hit, and I had plants I needed to sell. And I was like, well, now's the time. I was like, Renato told me I got to get online and do it. So that's what I did. And I had a great response. And it's like, when you get that response, it kind of gives you that rush. And then I was like, okay, let me do another one. And so it really grew during COVID. And I really like what you said. You kind of feel like you know me. I really felt like I developed relationships digitally to my customers. I talk about everything. And it's crazy. People really, they would come in and say, oh, is Jen here? And so it's, people like to see the back end of the store. They like to see the operations. They like to see and watch what's going on in businesses.
Yeah, that's interesting that you mentioned that, because I was just reading comments in a Facebook group this morning, actually, how uh, this florist, who shall go unnamed, but they were complaining that, oh, the customer comes in and they want to see the back room, or they want to see me design their arrangement, and I flat out refused. And I don't mean to, like, what's the term, be an ageist or whatever, but I could kind of tell what age they were, maybe, based on that, because I'm a Generation Xer, so I'll put it out there. And I know a lot of the florists that I know a little older, and that's very uncomfortable for them. So for the fact that you put that iPhone in front of your face in selfie mode and just start talking to your audience, I think that resonated greatly with a younger audience that appreciates that authenticity. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think especially with small businesses, nobody, that's one reason why they come to small businesses. They want to know your story. They want to know the family. They can't get that from Target. They can't get that from the Costco or Sam's. They want to know why you sell flowers, how you enjoy it. They want to know your story. That's one niche that we can fill to promote flowers and plants that the big box stores can't.
I'm glad I heard you say that.
Mm-hmm.
They want to know your story, because that's super true. That people want to feel like they're buying local for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
and part of that is knowing the small business owner and the community business owner that's there. And I think that by going in the back room with your phone and even saying, hey, I know that you're not allowed to come back here, but I wanted to show you what goes on. It makes them feel like they're still getting something, even if you put that right out front. Hey, you can't come back here, but let me show you what it looks like. Let me show you what's going on back here. So they've not missed that opportunity. And today's generation has a need to know. They need to know about everything in every way. And so I think it's a great way of being able to serve both of those.
Well, again, kudos to you, Jen. That's an amazing practice. I wanted to switch gears once again on the digital front. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to add something?
I'll just add one more thing. So the younger generations, they're smart digitally, and they don't want to be had. There's order gatherers out there. So it's that social media is one way to validate. If you think that they're just coming to your website, they're not. They are clicking on your social media because they want to know you are an actual flower shop. So that's another reason why it's really important.
Well, they say that up to 66% of the people are going to look at your website whether they make a purchase there or not. Because that's their way of, like you said, knowing that you're who you say you are local, you are truly being able to provide what they can. So they're going to look regardless, and then they're going to Google you and see what else you've got out there. Then make that decision. This is where I'm going to go make my purchase.
Great point, Jackie. And this is a great segue, because you mentioned order gatherers. And one of the primary methods, or the method that order gatherers use to gather those orders, are through ads, online ads. So I know Tillie's does your own ads. And I have a lot of conversations with florists, let's just be honest. And a lot of florists don't see a value proposition in advertising with Google. What's your take on Google? Why do you guys advertise?
Well, this is a hot topic. It is definitely getting harder to manage. I can't really compete with what they're willing to spend. So I don't spend as much money as I used to, but I do for my name, because I want to protect the Tillie's name. And so I do heavily spend money on sponsored ads with Google. But a workaround is to really build up your Google business page so that you really are relevant on your Google page.
That's great advice, because that's the advice that we just had given maybe a video or two ago. So sorry, that's a total shameless plug, but check out those videos that are coming out on building up your Google business. And again, we did not plant that with Jen. She brought that on her own, but it is a great point and super duper important to build up your Google business profile. Well, the scary thing that I discovered is a lot of florists haven't even claimed their pages or own their pages. So a majority of this video is just talking about how you would go claim it. But let me pick your brain a little bit about the Google business profile, yours. How often do you guys look at it, touch it, do something with it?
Oh, all the time. First off, anytime someone gives us a review, I respond immediately, even the good reviews, because Google wants to see that you're active. They will place you higher if they see that you are an active user. That's probably something I learned from Renato too. This isn't really a plug. I just learn a lot from Renato. I pick his brain all the time. So reviews, I always respond to. If it's a bad review, I kind of take a breath. You want to make sure you're responding not only to the person that gave you a bad review, but future users that are going to read that. They want to see how a business responds to issues. And then I do put Google products on there. I do that as well. And I try to make a post every week. I'm not real great about that. Sometimes I forget about it. But I do try to at least do one, like they call it an update. So I do a post that just anything, just because again, Google, if you're updating your hours, if you're going to be closed on Memorial Day, closed on Labor Day, you want to update all that information because Google will reward you. Basically, they're going to place you higher up because you are responding and you are a responsible business owner.
Wow, that's extremely sage and spot on advice. We appreciate you for sharing that, and that's coming from a real deal florist here that is very successful in the digital space. You know what? Thank you so much for answering those pretty hard pressing questions about digital. I know a lot of people may not necessarily be comfortable with that. Jackie, did you have any other questions?
Well, we always like to ask every guest that we have on here, what is the single most important information you would like to share with our viewers or listeners?
Education and be willing to change. Our industry is changing so much, and don't think you know it all. Be willing to change and educate yourself. Go to the conventions, go to meetings, talk with other flower shops. Be willing to make those changes and educate on the new stuff so that you can stay on top of your game.
Sound advice, because education is one of the key resources that we have available from so many different directions. And we know that you are a great one to search out that education, whether it's from us or others.
Or
I like
else,
the fact that you look and see what's available and what can help you. So thanks so much for sharing that. What about wrapping us up?
Well, Jen, thanks so much for being our guest today and definitely answering some pretty tough questions. If you're listening to this podcast, we do have our video version on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/@Floriology. And we also post it on Facebook. We're definitely going to be tagging Tillie. So hopefully Jen reposts it on her site, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, to spread the word about all this great advice that she has. And that's all I had, Jackie. Want to close this out?
Yeah, well, just remember that there's no use crying over spilled petals. We'll see you again next time.
Bye.